Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a fascinating story about Balaji Amines. Now they're a huge name in the Indian chemical space, but they've hit a pretty rough patch. And their response? Well, it's not to just trim costs. Nope, they're making a massive billion-rupee bet on the future. The big question is, will it work?
So let's just dive right into the numbers because they really tell the story here. I mean, look at this. We're comparing the last two financial years, and it is not pretty. Revenue, down 14%. EBITDA, that's their operating profit, down 25%. And their net profit, that's plunged by 31%. For a company of this size, a market leader, these are more than just numbers on a page. These are flashing red lights.
So seeing numbers like that, you've got to ask, right? What on earth is going on here? Why are things going south? And maybe more importantly, what's their game plan to pull out of this nosedive? That's exactly what we're here to figure out. Okay. So to get what they're doing now, we first need to get what they do. Balaji Amines is what I like to call an invisible giant. They make stuff that's absolutely everywhere, but you'd never know it. Their bread and butter? A group of chemicals called aliphatic amines. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful. You've probably never heard of them, but trust me, you use them every single day. They're the fundamental building blocks for so many things. We're talking life-saving drugs, pesticides that protect our crops, even things like cleaning chemicals.
And here's where things get really interesting and a little risky. Look at where all those amines go. Over half, 51%, goes into pharmaceuticals. Another 26% into agrochemicals. So you add that up, and more than 3/4 of their entire business depends on just two industries. That kind of concentration, well, it means if those sectors catch a cold, Balaji Amines gets the flu. It's a huge vulnerability.
And that's pretty much exactly what's been happening. The company's management has talked about a perfect storm hitting them. First, demand from that agrochemical sector has been all over the place. Then, there's been insane pricing pressure. But the real kicker? Fierce competition from cheap imports, especially what's called dumping. That's when foreign companies just flood the market with super cheap product, sometimes sold below their own costs, just to grab market share. It makes it almost impossible to compete.
So, you've got this storm, raging. What do?
Well, Balaji Amines isn't just hunkering down and waiting for it to blow over. Oh no, they're making a bold move. A massive strategic pivot. Basically, a huge bet that the future is going to look very, very different. And when I say huge, I mean it. They're pumping about 750 crores through their subsidiary Balaji Specialty Chemicals into a massive new greenfield project. Now, greenfield just means they're building it all from the ground up, brand new factories to make a whole new range of products. But this isn't just about building more factories to make more of the same old stuff. It's a really focused strategy with three main pillars. First, getting into the electric vehicle supply chain. Second, developing cleaner fuels. And third, manufacturing really high-value, complex chemicals that not many other companies in the world can make. So you can really see the shift right here. On one side, you have the current headaches, price wars, import dumping, shaky demand. On the other, you have their new focus, pioneering new tech in India, making products for hot markets like EVs and clean energy, and getting into high-value chemicals. It's a total strategic trade-off. Okay, so let's get specific. What are these futuristic new products? Well, one is something called electronic-grade DMC. It's a super important ingredient for the electrolytes inside EV batteries. Then you've got dimethyl ether, or DME, which is a much cleaner fuel that you can actually blend with the LPG you use at home. And finally, they're getting into some very complex cyanide-based chemicals, which are used in pharma and agro, but are so hard to make that there are only a handful of producers in the whole world.
But look, making a change this massive is never easy, right? It doesn't happen with the flip of a switch. There are bound to be hurdles, and the road from spending all that money to actually seeing a profit, well, that's turning out to be a bit of a marathon, not a sprint.
In this quote from the managing director is so telling. He says, "The plant is ready, everything is ready. We are waiting for the PESO." That's the Petroleum and Explosive Safety Organization. He's basically saying the factory is built, the machines are in, but they're stuck in regulatory limbo. It's a perfect example of how, no matter how good your plan is, you can get held up by things completely outside your control. And this timeline really drives that point home. It lays out the whole roadmap. You can see some of the big projects like that DME plant and phase 1 of the new subsidiary are hopefully coming online in the 2025-26 fiscal year. But then you have other major upgrades stretching all the way out to fiscal 27. So the key word here is patience. The full payoff from all this investment is still a few years down the road.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've seen the problems they're facing, and we've seen their incredibly ambitious plan to fix them. So what's the final verdict? What does this all mean for the company?
What it boils down to is this. Balaji Amines is playing the long game. They're making a conscious choice to take a hit on their performance right now, to sacrifice those short-term profits in order to fund a massive long-term transformation. They're trying to build a company that's ready for the markets of the future, not just the ones they're in today.
And that really leaves us with the billion-rupee question, doesn't it? They are trading the profits they could be making today for a shot at dominating the markets of tomorrow. But it's a huge gamble. They've got to deal with tough competition, navigate a maze of regulations, and master brand new technology. So the question we're left with is simple but huge. Will this high-stakes bet